creating a project. Okay, started recording. So let's continue with our discussion. So let's see. We talked about Java, different types of comments and stuff. So let's just talk about, let's get into a bit of data types, right? So I'm gonna create a folder here and call it tutorial 1, right? And then I'm gonna put inside that folder. Okay, I'm gonna sort of like divide it into sections, right? I'm gonna talk about the data types in Java, and then there's gonna be a section for only the string class. And then there's gonna be a section for like for loops, while loops. And then towards the end, we're gonna talk about classes, like composition, inheritance, and things like that. So let's start with, let me divide them into folders. Let's call this data types, right? So here we're gonna be, I'm gonna call it data type, right? Data type class. Data type dot Java. So I'm gonna talk about how the naming convention and everything, how to name your methods, your variables, your classes, and everything. So let's talk a bit about how to name these things, right? So let's talk about variables. Variables is the same as C++, right? The way you name the variables, but it's a bit different, right? Yeah, it's a bit different in just a small area. So with variables, right? Okay, let me just call them identifiers. So identifiers is just names used to identify classes, methods, and variables. So this is just ways for identifiers, just names that we come up with that we're going to use to identify the class, the method, and variables. And remember, methods are just functions. So what are the rules, right? So rule number 1, identifier. Okay, let me not write this in full. It must start with a letter, an underscore, or a $sign, right? It can start with an underscore, a letter, or a $sign. And you must make use of camel case. So camel case, in simple terms, it's like the first letter, let me see, the letter of the first word, right? So you see, let's say, for example, I want to create a variable named number of students, right? To represent my number of students. So I would name it number of students. But remember that there's no spaces for variables. So I'm going to remove the spaces. So how do we use camel case? Camel case, it means the first character of the first word should be a lowercase. And then the first letter or first character of each subsequent word is going to be in uppercase. Meaning that the first letter of every word that comes after the first word should be uppercase. So number is the first word. So obviously its first letter, I'm gonna make it the lowercase. Then of is a different word now. So that means the first letter of should be in uppercase. And then students is a different word. That means its first letter, it should be in uppercase. So S, like this. So this is the naming convention for identifiers. But this applies to only variables and methods. Classes are a bit different. So variables and methods, you name them this way. So another thing that you should know of, you cannot use reserved words. So reserved words are, let's change this language to Java so that it highlights the reserved words. Reserved words meaning like your true, false, or class keyword, or null. These are the reserved words, right? So anything that comes pre-installed with Java, that meaning your data types even too. Remember, data types also have keywords. So these are your byte, short, double, long, float, anything that's regarded as reserved in Java, you cannot use that to name your identifiers. So we have that. Just make sure you don't start. You cannot start with a digit. You shouldn't start with a number. Make sure it doesn't start with a digit. And it can be of any length. But just make sure the length, right, is not too long. Don't make it too long, right? So don't create a variable like this. For example, e.g., this is a very long variable name. This is unnecessary. You can't create a variable of which its name is this long. This is a very long name. Don't abuse your rights, right? You are given the right to name it for it to be of any length, but just don't abuse that, because whatever code you write, another developer is gonna come and read your code, right? So it can be of any length, but do not abuse it, right? I can make a simple example. With great power comes great responsibility. So you have the power, but don't abuse it. Be responsible. Don't name your variables like this. Trust me, no one's gonna want to read your code. So we have that, we understand the rules, right? So remember what I said in terms of methods and variables, right? You should use camel case, right? Meaning that the each the first letter of the first word should be in lowercase, and then each subsequent word, the character of the first letter of each subsequent word should be in uppercase. For example, number of students, like this. That's camel case. You might ask yourself, why is it called camel case? It's called camel case because when you look at the way it's named, when you look at the variable in full, it sort of looks like a camel's hump, right? So I'm gonna show you camel's hump. You see how it is, that hump? It sort of mimics, yeah, this is a perfect example. You see, it sort of looks like this hump here. It goes like this, and then it goes up, and then it goes down like that. That's why it's called camel case. Because if you look at this word, right, let me see if I can illustrate it inside draw.io. I don't know if you can draw. Can you draw here? I don't think you can draw. Okay, no. Just give me a sec. I want you to picture it so that next time when you think of camel case, yeah, you're gonna think of this session. Let me see. Which app? Let me see if I have. I hope I didn't delete it. paint. I did delete it. Let's see. Just give me a sec. Let me install the paint. What application? Okay, let me do this because I want you to see. It's no use for me to use this camel what example and you can't see exactly where they got the idea to call it camel case. So let me see. Isn't there another app for me to draw? Snipping tool? Nope. Is it Paint? I think it's called Paint 3D, right? Install Paint for Windows. Yeah, this is the one. So just give me a sec. Come on, install. Okay, get. Yeah, this is a very useful app. I shouldn't have uninstalled it. It's a very useful app, especially when you have to demonstrate something during a session. Okay. So at least the Wi-Fi is fast. Okay, now it's installing. So I want you to see what I meant with camel case. Okay, there we go. Done. So let's get straight into it. So let me see. Where's the text? Text, right? So number of students, right? And then I'm gonna do this. So there's the number of students, and then no more. Okay, pencil. So this is where that hump comes from, right? So as you can see, it goes like this, and then it goes up like this, and then it goes down like this, right? So that's where the camel, that camel case thing they're talking about is coming from. So if you look at this, you see, it goes like this, and then there's a hump, and then it goes down, and then you see. So that's where they got this camel case because it sort of like looks like a camel's humps. So yeah, every time when you think of camel case, always picture this. I hope it makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so always think of this. It goes straight like this, and then it creates a hump nyana, and then it goes straight again. So always think of that when you think of camel case. So we have that camel case. We understand what camel case means, right? So, and also it can be of any length. And also all of this also still applies for both methods and variables, even classes. So with classes, right? Now you're gonna understand what I was talking about with the string data type. So with classes, you still use camel. It's not camel case. It's you don't use camel case. It's basically every first letter of each word is in uppercase. So every first letter or first character of every word is in uppercase. So let's say I want to create a class called hello world, right? If I created it like this, I wouldn't be following the rules of Java. I would have to create it like this. I'll say class, and then the first letter is H, so uppercase, and then hello, and then the next word, remember, world is its own word. Hello is its own word. So the next word is world. So that means its first letter or its first character should be in uppercase. That means W should be in uppercase. So world, like this. So this is wrong. It will still work. Trust me, it's gonna work, but it's wrong when because most of the Java code that you're going to be reading, or yeah, just reading from other developers, they'll be following these rules. So imagine you write your own Java code in your own way, then it's a problem for other Java developers to interpret your code. So make sure you don't make that mistake. Then this is the right way or the right approach to name your classes. So we are done. We now know the rules for identifiers, for variables, methods, and classes, how you should name them. So now we can move on to the next thing, right? Let's talk about variables. So variables, these are just what containers or placeholders. And they are called variables because the values vary or they change, right? So that means the values are non-constant. That means they keep varying. They vary. So variables. So the values change. So how would you declare a variable in Java, right? You would say data type, and then you put a space, and then you write the name of variable. Pay attention to how I'm writing name of variable. I'm using camel case, just like we've discussed in previously in the way about the way you name variables in Java. And you put a semicolon. Remember what I said about programming languages. They took a bit of the language, the English language, the things part of the English language and some of the features part of the machine language. And then they made a trade-off and they made one language that combined both of the features. So when you see a semicolon here, always think of it as like a full stop. It means this is a full sentence if we were writing, if this was English. But remember, we don't call it sentence, we call it a statement or an instruction, but usually just call them statements. Yeah, instead of sentence, you call it a statement. So this is a complete statement because it has that character that says, oh, stop here. Just like in English, if you say, I am going to school, full stop. It means this sentence is ended. That's where it ends. This full stop means it ends, and anything after the full stop represents a new sentence, right? I know it sounds silly, but I'm taking you back to primary. But yeah, everything still applies. It's still similar to all the things you're taught in primary. So just know that that's what the semicolon does, or what that semicolon means. So that's why, for example, if you try to run your Java code and you forget the semicolon, it's like, okay, I'm lost now. I don't understand what are you saying because now everything is mixed. I don't know where the sentence starts, and I know it starts, but I don't know where it stops. And I don't know which one is a different sentence. You see, it gets confused. So you must always put a semicolon where it's necessary. So we have data type and name of variables. And remember what I said, variables are just placeholders. If we go back to our diagram here, okay, this is no longer needed. Remember a variable, right? It's just like a container. You can imagine this is the container, right? It's like, let's imagine this is just a cup, right? And inside the cup, you pour something, right? So this cup becomes a container of something. It contains something. And whatever that something it contains, we call that the data type. Data type meaning data type meaning the type of data contained in the container or inside the container. That's what the data type means. That's what it tells the computer or the compiler. It will be like basically it's saying, oh, listen, I want you to store this type of data and use this as the placeholder for that type of data, right? So that's what it means. And there's different types of data types, right? So we're going to get into that. So there's the container. You store a value. Let's say you want to store, okay, I'm going to view it in terms of, let me see. Let's view it in terms of Coca-Cola, right? In terms of cold drink. So let's say this is 500 milliliters, right? So this, remember, each container, it has a specific size of basically each container size basically a size is something that tells it, or that tells us how big this thing is, or how much can it contain, right? So 500 milliliters, that's you can pour a cup and extra 150 milliliters. Remember, a cup is like 350, roughly 350 milliliters. So I can estimate that, oh, it's like a cup and a half, something like close to a half, something like that. So there's a cup, and the size also dictates how much quantity the thing can store. So you can't take 2-liter Coca-Cola, right? And you try to pour it, all of it, inside this 500 milliliters container. You can't do that, right?
Yeah.
Because 2 liters is more. It has more quantity than this small container, right? So you can't pour that into there. It's gonna start what? Overflowing. It's gonna start, it's gonna reach its maximum, and then now some of the liquid is gonna be overflowing outside the cup because you're trying to go beyond its maximum, right? Same thing with data types. So we're gonna talk about numeric data types, right? I'm trying not to make this video long, so bear with me if I'm moving too fast. I'm trying to avoid making this video very long because there's a lot to discuss. So numeric data types, right? So basically data types related to, or handling, let me say data types for dealing or handling numbers, right? Numeric data type, numbers. We are dealing with numbers. So you might ask yourself, why do you have so many data types? Remember the thing about quantity. Each data type has a specific limit or quantity or maximum that it can accommodate or it can store. That's why we're going to have so many different variation of the same thing. So the first and the most smallest one is what we call a byte data type. This one can store only 8 bits, right? 8 bits mean, bits, binary digits. Bit stands for binary digits, and binary digits just basically those zeros and ones. Remember when you talked about the language of the computer, machine language, that's the machine language. It's zeros and ones. So remember, underneath the hood, everything in a computer is stored in terms of digits. Because for those geeks out there, people who want to explore more, a computer is what we call transistors, which is basically on and off switches. So developers, when they were making computers, they said, okay, if there's an on switch or an on switch, or there's a presence of current. On means that there's there's um there's little or more presence of current, right? So if there's a presence of current, that means it's on. We can use it interchangeably with one. So this can be on or one. We can say it's on, or it has the value 1, the integer 1. If it's off, we can say that it has the value 0. Remember, 0 means nothing, right? So that means there's we can say, okay, I'll just use little or no presence of current, right? So it's like transistors is like a bulb. You can think of it in terms of a bulb. The bulb can be on and the bulb can be off. So that's how it works. That's how the computers work. Like as we're speaking right now, you can see my screen, right? Because I charged my laptop, I filled it with current. So there's a presence of current. So right now I'm operating at a value of 1. That means it's on. My laptop is on. I switch off my laptop. that means it's zero. There's little or no presence of current. So every time you see bits, when they say 8 bits, that means 8 combinations of zeros and ones. And 0 means there's no presence of electricity or current, and 1 means there's a presence of electricity or current. If you did physics, you'd know what I'm talking about. Yeah, if you'd know, and that's one of the prerequisites for doing computer science, physics. So you should have some sort of familiarity with what I'm talking about. So byte, okay, now I'm mixing things in one part, right? So let's do this. Let me copy this and put it underneath here. I can save this file and share it if you guys need the information here. Okay, I already deleted some of the information. So let me do this so that I don't, let me cut and then I undo. I want to put back that information about identifiers so that you have all the information. There we go. And then here talking about data types. Yeah, so I'm just going to comment it out and divide it. And then this is identifiers. And it's a Java file, so you can just open it in Notepad. And if you want to transfer, then you can convert it to Word and what. That's up to you. And make it a PDF. That's up to you. So it's going to be 8 bits, right? So let me do this. Bits is equals to binary digits, and the binary digits are 0 or 1. 0 or 1. There's a presence or no, there's presence of electricity or there's no presence of electricity. So yeah, that's how it works. So that's like the fuel for the computer. It works with current, it works with electricity. So yeah, that's 8 bits. And just keep track of something. Each data type or each numeric type. Okay, this one represents, here we're talking about integer data types. So remember, an integer, now you have to go back to basic maths. So you have to remember the numbers, all those things about real numbers is an element of z and what, all those things. That's what we're talking about here. Integer basically is a number with no, I would say it's a number with no fractional component. It's a number that doesn't have like a decimal. It doesn't have dot something, right? That's what I call an integer. So here I'm showing you the different data types and how much it can store. And to measure how much it can store, we say 2 to the power followed by the number of binary digits that it can represent -1. That's the maximum. So, and you say -1, 2 at the end. Yeah, because I don't know. What was it? What's this -1 for? I think it's to remove the 0. To not count starting from 0, to instead to count from 1. Yeah, I think that's what this -1 does. So base 2. Why am I saying base 2? Let's do a bit of revision on the number systems, right? So the system that we use is DEC or decimal. DEC meaning 10 digits, right? And the 10 digits are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These are all the numbers that are used to represent digits, right? So 0 to 9. If you count them, these are 10 digits. So that hence we have the DEC number system or the decimal system. So if I wanted to represent 123, right? What is 123? It's 100 plus 20 plus 3. And remember, we use base 10. So how would you represent this in base 10? This is 10 to the power of 2 plus 10 to the power of 1 times 2, right? To get 20. 10 to the power of 1 is just 10. Times 2 is just 20. Plus 10 to the power of 0. Remember, every number to the power of 0 is just is just 1. So that times 3. Then you get 123. That's the system that we use. Remember, computers, they only use 0 or 1. So hence base 2, 2 to the power of instead of 10 to the power of, because there's only 2 digits to represent that 2 digits that the computer works with, 0 or 1. 0 meaning there's no current, 1 meaning there's current. Simple as that. So that's the range. For byte, that's the smallest. So byte, it usually stores up to the value 127, right? If you calculate this, 2 to the power of 7 minus 1, it's going to evaluate to 127. So that means the maximum integer you can store in a byte is 127. It's the integer 127. So just that's why we need to have different data types, because what if I want to create a banking app? Obviously, no one's going to have a maximum of 127 rands in their bank account. It's too small. Not everyone's going to have that maximum balance. Maybe students, but and also students, it's not always, that's not the maximum. The maximum I would say for students, like normal students, let's not talk about people who are privileged. People who have about 20,000-30,000 as allowances a month. No, those are privileged kids. They say the maximum you're getting is like 3K. You see, it's so 3,000 is actually way bigger than 127. So you see, that's why there's different integer data types, because there's different range of values that you can store, right? And then we're gonna have the short data type. Just keep track of how it works. The next integer data type is twice as big as the previous one. So short is going to be twice as big. So 8 times 2, that's 16 bits. 16 binary digits. To find the range, remember it's 2 to the maximum. The minimum is just negative 2 to that same power. So 2 to the power 16 minus 1. And then that answer that you get, subtract 1, because we don't want to, we want to exclude 0. We want to start counting from 1 up until that number. So I'm going to have to say minus 1 every time. And then there's the integer type, right? And then this is going to store, previously it was 32 bits, 16 times 2 is going to be 32 bits, which is basically 2 to the power of 31, right? Because 32 minus 1 is 31, right? So these ones, I'm just going to write them as they are. This is 7 to the power 7, to the power 15, 2 to the power of 31. And then don't forget to subtract the 1. And we're going to have what we call a long. So this is long. This is going to be 64 bits, which is basically the same as 2 to the power of 64 minus 1, which is 63. And then minus 1. And then these are all the integer types that you can represent, right? And remember, I said we're going to deal with numeric types, right? We're still working with numeric types, data types that represent numbers. Then we're going to have what we call floating point data types. I'm going to show you how to declare and everything. I'm just showing you the different data types and their ranges. So we're going to have the float data type. This one, it's 32-bit, and the 32-bit that it's going to have, it's a standard called IEEE 754. So the IEEE basically stands for the Institute of Electronics, um, electronics and of electronics and electrical engineers, right? So this is like, you might ask, what's that institute all about? This institute, right, is just a group of people who sat down, a group of electrical engineers who sat down and came up with a standard or came up with the approach of representing real numbers inside computers. So that's why it's not the same as this one, because this one doesn't have it doesn't have remainder, right? It's not it's not a decimal number. It's not how do I put it? It doesn't have a decimal point. So it's not like 1 point something or what point something. It's just integers, these ones. So these ones are fine. That's why we didn't say IEEE, because that standard there was no point in putting that standard there. So this one used 32-bit IEEE 754. You can Google it for more information. That's up to you. And all this information that I'm talking about is in the textbook. If you check the textbook that it said you should have, all of this information is there. So 64-bit IEEE 754. So double basically means that it is double the accuracy. Hence, if this is 32, that means the double is going to have double that one, which is 32 times 2, which is 64. And yeah, we are done with numeric data types. Then we're going to have the non-numeric ones, right? So you're going to have char, meaning that it represents a character. And you're going to have a string representing I would say a string of characters, right? So the string data type, you can view it in terms of if you know the name bracelet.
Yes.
Yeah, the name
I
bracelet.
remember that example very well.
Yeah, the name bracelet. Yeah. So let me just Google it so that everyone can understand. So the name bracelet, right? This one, you see, it's a string that consists of characters or letters, right? If you check, okay, I don't want to shop. Just want to view. Yeah, you see, there's the string. Okay, come on. This thing, why is it opening other websites? Oh, I'm viewing it. Yeah, this string bracelet. You see, Armand. You see, Armand is a string of characters. A is a character, R is a character, M is a character, A is a character, N is a character, D is a character. It's a string of characters. It's literally like that. So always think of a string. When you think of a string, think of this example. Always think about that. And you might ask yourself, why is the first character or the first letter of the string data type in uppercase? Because strings, like I said, it's a topic. It's like a session on its own. You should have its own session, because the strings in Java, it's a whole class. Remember what I said. If you go back to the naming rules, right? What did you say class is? How do you name a class? Every first letter of each word is in upper case. So that means even if you have one word, like let's say string, you'd have to name it like this, right? That's how I knew it was a class, because the first letter or the first character is in uppercase. So it's a whole class, meaning that there's functions or methods for strings. That's why I'm saying it's a chapter on its own. It's something that you're going to do separate, but you need to use it for your practical, obviously. So we're just going to touch here and there. Just show you a bit of just one function, I think should be fine. So these are the data types. And then the last but not least, the Boolean, true or false. The Boolean data type. You write it as Boolean like this. That's the only difference in C++. In C++, you usually write it as bool, right? In Java,
Yes.
you write it in full Boolean. And remember why you might, for all my nerds out there, Boolean, how did they get this word Boolean? So Boolean came from this guy called George Boole. He's the inventor of logic, right? Like true or false. He invented those two things. So they named it after him, Boolean. So they named it after him. So Boolean has the character, has this true or false, just represents true or false. And remember, it goes back to computers. True, meaning that there's a presence of electricity. False, meaning that it's zero. There's no presence of electricity. And I'm going to test this when you create a program. You see, if I create a Boolean and I set it to true and I output that Boolean variable, it's going to show 1. If I set it to false, it's going to show 0. Then you'll finally understand what I'm been talking about. So these are all the data types. For primitive, I would say primitive. This one, the string, remember, it's a class on its own. We technically we shouldn't be calling it a primitive. It's not a fundamental type. It's a wrapper. It's a wrapper class data type, right? Because it has functions, it has methods and all that. But we'll get back to it. So we have all these data types, right? How do you declare now? If you go back to the nodes of variables, we said you start by the data type, you put a space, and you give the name, the variable, a name, and then you put a semicolon to say, oh, listen, it terminates. This is the end of this sentence or this end of this statement. So let's create the different data types, right? So examples of data types, right? Just examples of variables. Let me say variables. So I'm gonna say byte space, just one space. Don't do this. Don't be spiritual, guys. Don't do this. I don't know what's the meaning of this. And then you name your variable and then you say same. I don't know what that's called. It's an automatic 0, even if your program runs. But I don't think it's gonna happen. Wait, it might. I don't know. But don't take chances. Don't be a risk taker, because you're gonna have a lot of errors that you won't be able to fix. It's one space, just one space. And then you give it a name. I'm gonna say byte number, just to keep things simple. And then short, I'm gonna say short number. And then int number. And then long number. And then we're gonna have character, ch. I usually use, it's up to you. You can prefix it with ch to say that's a character. You don't have to, but I'm just gonna call it character. And remember, character is one word. I don't have to say something like this and use camel case. I don't have to. Character is one word. If there's more than one, then I would use camel case. And then string, can I call it str value, right? And then the last one, Boolean, is valid. Usually, it's something, Boolean needs to make sense, right? You can't just say Boolean and say number. It makes no sense because Boolean is true or false. So is valid or is, maybe we want to check if it's even, something like that. And then to initialize values, it's simple. You put immediate just before the semicolon, you put a space like this and say equals to, space again, and then you put the value. Remember what he said, the maximum of a byte is the integer 127. If you put 128 like this, it's gonna crash. Your program won't work. We'll test it out, but I'm just warning you that it's important to know the ranges. You should check these notes or check the textbook. The ranges are very important. So I can't say 127 then. I can say 128. I would say 127. And then short, it's 16 bits, slightly bigger than the byte, twice as big as the byte data type. So maybe I can just say 10,000 there. And then here, just any value. And then now let's come to longs, right? The long data type. The long, it has to be accompanied with a suffix L. It can be a small letter L or uppercase L. So it can be a small L or uppercase L at the end. Suffix, remember what suffix means. It means it's at the end. Prefix is it's at the beginning. So suffix, let's say I want to represent 128 long. I have to put the L character there or L in uppercase. It's more advisable to use uppercase because someone might confuse the small letter or the lowercase L with the 1. they might think, oh, that's a 1. So for example, if I say L like this, you see, doesn't it look similar to 1? It does, right? So you might think this is 1281, but it's not. It's the long number 128. So that's why it's preferable to use L. You know, it's more preferable to use that. Oh, I forgot to put float and double. So float number, double number. And then character can be any character. And remember, with the character in Java, you put it in single quotes. You put it in single quotes, and then let's say the character A. Yeah, that's it. That's what you're gonna initialize it to. A string, remember, it's a string of characters. So usually initialize it to using double quotes. Or remember, this is a class. You can use the new keyword, but we will get to that. Let's not complicate things. Let's just use double quotes. So double quotes and write the string hello world. Right? There's the string. You see, string of characters. String of characters basically means characters have been combined to form one word, or letters have been combined to form one word. That's just a string. And you can also think of the name bracelet. A is combined with the letter R, combined with the letter M, combined with the letter A, and so forth to form the word Armand. So that's a string. And then Boolean, you can set it to true or false. So I'm just going to set it to false because I don't know whether it's even or not. So initially it's going to be false. And then float number. Remember what okay, let me not say remember because you guys are new to Java. So Java, the way by default, if you have a double, right, it's going to, if you have a literal, you see this literal integers and literal longs and literal characters and literal strings, they by default, if you have a literal double, right, a literal real number, a number with a decimal point. If you have that number, it's automatically going to be converted to a double because double is more accurate. So that's why you need to have, you see, just like we have a suffix L there, for float, you can have the suffix F, small letter f or uppercase letter F. So if I want to say 1.23, it's going to be a problem because this will complain. Because what I'm trying to do here, we'll get to casting, but what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to cast from double to float because automatically it's going to convert this value to a double. So for you to prevent that from happening, you must put a suffix F or the uppercase F. It's up to you. Usually small letter F is fine. Uppercase, it's like, not necessarily, it doesn't matter, but just know both methods. So we have to put the suffix F or uppercase F. With double, remember I said automatically gets converted to a double, so you don't have to worry. You can just say 1.23 because this will be converted to a double automatically. And I'm saying I want to store a double, so this should be fine. It won't complain. And there's also, you could also explicitly say you want a double. You can put the suffix D, small letter d, or uppercase D, but don't use it. It's just for you to know it's there. Don't ever do that. Don't ever write it like this. Don't ever do that. But I'm just telling you so that you guys know it's part of Java. But we don't normally put the suffix D because already automatically this will be converted to a double. It's already converted to a double, and you're putting a double to convert it to a double. Like, what are you trying to do? Like, we get your point. We get your point. Don't try to overemphasize your point. It's already a double. Don't put that suffix D there. So these are all the data types that you're going to be working with, right? We can see the slight variation from C++ to Java. You can see it here and there. So we have those data types, right? So now we need to talk about how to get input, right? I'm just going to talk about these different things so that we when we, okay, I think I should write a simple C++ program and convert it, so that when we get to talk about, when you get to convert a simple C++ program, you get to understand what's going on. So let's talk about input and output, right? How to get input and how to get output, input and output. So Java uses a class, the system.out class. So it uses the system class, and then you call the print stream instance, right? So you see this, if you remember in object-oriented programming, this is you calling something within something, right? This is a system class, and you're calling an instance of another class within another class. So this is an example of composition. We have a class within another class, because out, right, it's an instance of another class. So that means I have a class within the system class. So out just represents, out is an instance of the print stream for printing, just like you have in C++, O stream meaning for output, O standing for output. Here they're calling it print stream instead. And remember the rules, if we go back to the rules for naming a class, every first letter of each word is in uppercase. So that's why you see when I say print stream, I'm writing it in every first letter of every word, every first letter of every word is in uppercase. That's why I'm naming it print stream. C++ follows a different philosophy. So don't compare and be like, oh, this one is in all lowercase, this one is in, no, don't, they're not the same, they're different. So we have system.in. In is an instance of, I think I forgot exactly what it's called. I don't know if it's input stream or what, but I forgot. I would have to confirm, but it has to be something related to input. So some stream, I think it's input stream. Yeah, I think it's input stream. Yeah, and in C++, it's equivalent to iStream, if you remember C++. So that's equivalent to iStream. So we always gonna call this to refer. So let me explain a bit further what we're talking about. So system.out, this basically represents the standard output device. And the by default standard output device is the display monitor for the screen. Basically, you see the screen that you see the screen that you're seeing right now, that's the standard output device. That's the monitor. That's the display monitor. That's the screen. Basically, that's what we mean. That's what we mean. So when you say system.out, you are referring to the standard output device, which is a display monitor. And by default, the display monitor is linked to what? Linked to the command prompt. Command prompt. Just like C++, it's linked to the command prompt. What is the command prompt? When you type CMD, there's the command prompt. Let's see the command prompt. This black thing, this is the command prompt. So whenever I say command prompt, think of this. So by default, when you say system.out and you want to output something, it's going to output it here. It uses the command prompt. So let's look at system.in. This represents the standard input device by default, which is the keyboard. So how does it get your input? It gets it from the keyboard. That's how you enter input into the computer. And we do that via CMD. Remember, you can ask, it can output here and say enter your age, something like this, right? And then you type your age, let's say 67. Where are you getting 67? You are getting it from your keyboard. You are using your keyboard to enter input. So that's what system.in refers to. It's referring to the standard input device, which is your keyboard. So we have that terminology. We understand the terminology. So let's see how you could output. Let's do an example of output, right? How do you output? It's simple. You say system.out. you call the standard input device, and then you call a function part of the stream, right? Part of printing. We have print line, and print a formatted version. So I'm just going to use print line, because print line, what it does, it moves the cursor to the beginning of the line after I've printed. So here I can just print hello world. This is how I would print it in Java. And then input is a bit complicated, because with input there's 1, 2, 3. There's like three steps involved for getting input. First things first, you import the class that's used to get the input. We use what we call the scanner class. So we use what we call the scanner class. That's what we use to get the input. Scanner meaning it scans your input. So it's going to scan your input and extract those specific values that it wants. If it wants a float, it's going to extract, it's going to scan your input and see, it's going to read, it's going to see where the first value or the first character is a number, is a digit. And it's going to see where there's a dot, or that digit is followed by a dot, and then it's going to look for values, for numbers after the dot, and then it sees where the last digit after the dot is, and then it stops there. Then it extracts that value as a float or a double, depending on how you declared your variable, what data type you used. So scanner, it just means to scan. You can imagine when they scan when you're at the cashier, when you're buying grocery from any shop, right, and they're scanning the goods that you've bought, right? They're scanning the QR code, right? So scanning it's similar to that. You're scanning whatever is there. What's that QR code? I want to see what's there. So that's what the scanner does too. It's scanning. It's similar to that scanner that you see when you're buying grocery. It's something like that. It tried to mimic that philosophy. So try to think about that when you think of scanner class. So scanner class is stored inside what we call a package. What is a package? A package, in simple terms, is combination of folders. That's all there is to a package. It's like, for example, when you say hash include in C++, right? When you say hash include and you say IO stream, like this, right? In Java, it's equivalent to you saying import IO stream. But in Java, it views that thing, it depends on how you're importing, but usually things are stored in folders. To package, you are storing it in folders. You can imagine a package, right? Like a box, right? For example, you don't want to buy, imagine buying imagine buying clothes online, right? And by the time they get to your accommodation or your residence, they don't come they don't come in a form of a package. It comes as it is, like the t-shirt as it is. They literally give you the t-shirt. That delivery guy takes out the t-shirts and holds it in his hands, and he gives you the t-shirt. You see the problem with that? It's very problematic. We need to package things. So the same concept that we apply in the real world, in our world on Earth, is the same thing that Java was trying to mimic, right? Remember, computers, it's made, programming languages are made by developers, and developers are human beings just like you and me, meaning that they're gonna borrow some of the concept from Earth, from the real world, and apply them inside their inventions, inside computers, inside programming languages. So when you see package, think of the package that you get when you order online. You don't want to get something that's not packaged, right? You have the right to complain and tell them, nah, I'm not going to buy the package. Can I have a refund? Because it's not packaged. How do you expect my thing to arrive safely if it's not packaged? Right? So it's the same thing. So with Java, right, everything you have to be put it in a package. If IOStream is a class, you have to put it inside a folder. So the way you reference or the way you access something in a folder, you write the folder's name first. So for example, right, let's go to downloads folder. And let's say I create this folder, and I'm gonna say, let me see. Let's call it Java, right? This folder contains everything that's part of Java, right? And then within this folder, I have another folder called utilities. Means that it's a set of utilities that I'm going to need in my program. And within this utility, I have a class. So I have a class, and remember, every class is stored inside a .java file, remember? And the class, the way you name it, the first letter of each word is in uppercase. So let's say we have the scanner class. So scanner dot Java, like this, right? So it's inside the Java folder, or it's inside the utility folder, which is inside of the Java folder. So how do you reference that? So in Java, it's equivalent to you saying, okay, let me not delete that. It's equivalent to you saying import Java. It means go to the Java folder, and then dot within the Java folder, there's a utility folder, dot within that folder, there's a scanner class. So scanner and then semicolon. So that's how packaging works. So it's packaged like this. It's equivalent to you saying hash include, but this is the Java way of doing it. And Java believes in packaging your stuff, putting it in folders or directories. Remember, we are now English, right? We don't say folders. It's directories. So inside directories, so this is equivalent to you saying, so this is what it does. It looks for a Java folder. Oh, there's the Java folder. It goes inside. And then within the Java folder, there can be many folders here. Oh, I want the utility folder. It goes inside the utility folder. Oh, I want the scanner class. So I just need to write the name of the class. So the name before the dot. Remember, it's .java. So before the dot, that whole name, it means I'm importing everything part of that Java file or that Java class. So that's why I wrote it like this. So now you can make an instance of this class. So that's something I wanted to explain, packaging. So now we know packaging. When you see something like this, just know folders and folders. And then by the end, this would now be a class. But everything before it, just know it's folders. It's packaged into folders. And remember, every class is in a .java file. So if it's like this, it means that this is a scanner.java file that I'm importing into this project. So let's go to reading input, right? Reading input from the user. So this is how you read input, right? You need to import the scanner class. I was just explaining, but coincidentally, this is how you have to import it. You have to go into the Java folder, go inside the utility folder, and then get the scanner class. And then you say scanner, you create an instance of a scanner class, right? So scan, and then I say is equals to new scanner. And then this scanner class, right? It needs to take in via the constructor, the input or the thing. It's a parameter, right? It's an argument. What argument should I pass? It's basically the thing that I want to scan. What do I want to scan? I want to scan the standard input device, right? And how can I reference standard input? It's system.in. So I copy this, I pass it as my input, standard.in. That's for standard input device, to refer to standard input device, meaning the keyboard. So this scanner class, this scan object is gonna now scan the key, whatever I've typed in the whatever I've typed using the standard input device, which is the keyboard. Whatever I type using the keyboard is gonna scan that input. Then now how do I read an integer or read something from the input, right? We have functions within the scanner class. Scanner class, it has functions. So to read, let's not talk about many functions. We're just focusing on reading simple input. There's way more functions inside the scanner class. I don't want to bombard you with information. So within the scanner class, we have functions for reading input. If you want to read an integer, okay, let's say read a byte. How would you read it? Remember the format for creating a variable is the data type byte followed by a space followed by the data type. So byte number is equals to what's the value now? That's the question. Remember, we previously we just typed our own value, like we put a literal value there. We literally wrote 10. But that's a problem. What if I don't want it to be fixed. I want to get values from the user. How do I do that? I created a scan, an instance of the scanner class. So I use that. I'm going to use that scan, and I called it scan. So I'm going to use the scan object to scan. How do I scan? I say scan that object dot next. What am I reading? I'm reading a byte. And remember when you talked about functions, methods, let's say methods. Let me not say functions. When you talked about methods, I did a good thing by not deleting so that I can reference the nodes. Remember what I said about methods. They use camel case. That means the first character of the first word is going to be a lowercase, and then the first character or first letter of each subsequent word is going to be in uppercase. So that means if I'm calling a function called or a method called next byte to get the next byte, B has to be in uppercase. So next byte like this. So that's how you can read a byte. Next byte, next, and now you can guess how everything else is going to be read. Next integer is next int. Next float is next float. Next double is next double. So these are the functions or methods. Let me not say function. I keep saying functions. Methods part of the scanner class. And these are methods for reading. So next byte, it reads a byte value. Byte value or byte values, whatever you want. Depends on how many you want to read. Next short reads a short value. Next int reads an int. And then next long reads a long. And then next next float reads a float. And then next double reads a double. And then to read a string, right? This is a string. This is how you read a string. To read a string, you're gonna say next, just next. The next, whatever next or whatever I'm reading, it reads that string. Then we also have another function that's very important. You'll see it as you go on. Next line. This reads the entire line. And then you might ask yourself, how would I read a character? Is there next char? Unfortunately, there isn't a function called next char. You'd have to read the string and then extract the first character of that string. That's how you read a char or a character. So yeah, these are the functions that are very important for reading input. You're gonna need to know them. You get used to it the more you code. So this is how you read input. And remember, these are the 3 steps. You import. Importing means I'm making it available within this Java file so that I can use an instance of that class, or I can use tools part of that class, right? And then we have this is how you can read it. You use you use that instance and you say next, whatever next you want to read. Next int, next byte, next short, next float, next double. That's how you read. Let me see. It's already an hour. Damn. I need to move a bit faster. But okay, it's fine. I'm moving at the right pace. I think I'm moving at the right pace because I need to cap it at least 2 hours maximum, the session. So next line, reads an entire line. These are the methods you need to know for now, right? And then we're gonna have all of this information. You see it applied when I convert a C++ program to a C to a Java program. These are the functions, and yeah, this is how you read, right? This is pretty much the information you need. And then in terms of iteration, right? In terms of for loops, while loops, do while, and what's the other one? Pretty much, yeah, pretty much this. It's the same. It's the same way you write it in C++, exact same way. There's no changes. It's exact same way, same syntax, calibrate, everything is exactly the same. And remember, with for loops, with any repetitive, if you have repetitive blocks, right? If you're using a while, a for loop, a while loop, or do while loop, when you have one sentence or one statement within the block, you don't put curly braces. There's no need. So, for example, let's say I'm printing values from 0 to 9, right? I'll write it like this, and then I press enter, and then remember, this is not C++. You don't say C out. You don't do that. This is Java. So you reference the system class, and you call the instance of print stream for printing. Then you call the print function for printing within the print stream class. And then you print whatever you want to print. I want to print I. That's it. So this is the syntax for printing. If you have one line, you can see there's one line for my for loop. But if it extends, there's more than one line, right? You're doing something else, something here. That's when you introduce curly braces. So now you'd have to put curly braces like this, just like in C++. So for loops are exactly the same as in C++. I will do a separate session to explain to where I make it, what is this? I use or I make use of all the tools and I explain them from scratch, like a proper recording. I'm going to do that. I think I should divide them. I should only explain variables, explain variables, but I already made the video. The only thing that was left is to talk about constants. I didn't talk about constants in that other video. I was supposed to make another video. So this is how you declare constants. Remember in C++, right? You'd say const, which is a word that was extracted from the word constant. So const meaning that it's constant, it's never changing. So they used const followed by a data type, right? Of which the data type, let's say it's int, and you write everything in uppercase. If there's more than one word in that constant name, let's say, for example, max value. I want to say max value. Each word is separated with an underscore, like this. If this all those rules that you were using in C++, they're also the same for constants in Java. The only difference is the keyword const. Let's say pi, right? 3.14. So in Java, so this will be the C++ approach, right? Or C++ syntax. In Java, use the keyword final. And you say int. It's exactly the same way. Just that's the different. Okay, I shouldn't call it max value. It's pi. So it's pi like this. So this is the Java equivalent way of writing a constant. Final meaning that's the final. So this 3.y is final. It can never be changed. Why? I feel like it makes sense in Java because remember data types, right? If I don't put the final key, what does this mean? It means it's a variable, right? It's going to vary. Vary meaning that it's going to change, right? But if I put final, it means that's the final. It's not going to change. If you get what I'm saying, final means it's not going to change anymore. It's not going to vary anymore. It's no longer a variable. It's a constant now because it's constant. It's not going to change. So that's the final keyword that you used. Used final instead of const. So I think that's pretty much everything you need to know. I'm gonna save this. Okay, I need to rename it. I'm gonna rename it and save and upload it on my OneDrive or T Drive, whatever Google Cloud system that I'm gonna use, and then put a link under the description on YouTube So I'm gonna do that. So
We just removed it. I wanted to ask if you
yeah.
didn't maybe want to add on the for loop, while loop, if you maybe didn't want to add the if statement or something, but
Oh,
I can see.
if you want to add something extra, right? Like remember I
Yeah.
said, if it's one statement, if it's one line within the for loop, you don't put a curly brace. If it's
Yes.
more
No, I
than
meant
one, yeah.
see line 111. I was
Yeah.
just asking if you didn't maybe want to add the extra info like to while and then if statement saying it's all the same.
Yeah, okay, I forgot if statements. So if
Yeah.
statements is the same, you say if, and then you're gonna have a condition here, and then curly brace, and then else if. It's exactly the same. It's literally exactly the
Yeah.
same as C++. Because why is it the same? Remember, if you watched that other video, the first video, when I was talking about introducing you to Java, talking about what Java, how did it come about, the symbol of Java, what it is, what does it mean? Remember, Java is a synonym for coffee. It's a slang for coffee. That's why you have the Java symbol is coffee. All of those things I was explaining that video. So Java is basically C++ with no pointers. That's Java. It's basically C++ with no pointers. Most of the things are the same. You see while loops, if statements, do all those things, for loops, variable data types, just a slight variation in the data types. As you can see, instead of writing it in small letters, it's string in uppercase. And then instead of writing bool, it's boolean. Those are the slight differences, slight variations. And then in terms, okay, let's talk about something you'll see it later, but let's talk about inheritance. Remember that in C++ you'd have something like this, right? Let's say I have shape, right? No, I have, let's say circle. I want to show inheritance, right? How do you show it in C++? You put a colon there and you say public, and then followed by the class that you are in, the base class, shape, right? This is how you denote inheritance. In Java, remember it's public class and then circle, like this. And then you'd say it extends. You'd use the keyword extends. So it extends the shape class. That's how you can denote inheritance. That's the difference. Inheritance in C++, and then inheritance in Java. So you have that inheritance in C++, inheritance in Java. So this is the difference. You'd say extends. And then for what is this? Composition, it's exactly the same. Remember in composition, right? You'd have something like this. You'd have the public, and then you'd have the private, and then you'd have another class, right? What would I say here? You see, that's the problem. Something, let's just some class, right? Let's say the class is called UJ image, right? So you'd have something like this, right? And then usually depending if it's composition or aggregation, you'd either put a pointer or no pointer, depending if it depends or doesn't depend. And then you'd say underscore image, right? It's exactly the same thing. Within here, it's just that there's no, you don't write this like this. You'd say by default, I think by default, yeah, by default, it's public in Java. Yeah. If you don't put the access modifier, if you don't say it's private or public, by default, it's going to be public. So you'd have to say it's private. It's not like C++ where by default, it's going to be private. I don't know why Java does that, but by default, it's going to be public. If you don't put that, if you don't say private, it's going to be public by default. So in Java, you'd have to say private to say it's private. And then UJ image. Remember, in Java, there's no pointers. There's no memory, pointers, deallocation, all those things. In Java, we have what we call the garbage collector. So that means your memory is managed automatically by Java. You don't have to worry about the memory. It has pointers behind the scenes, but you don't have to know pointers. So it's like this. That would be the difference between the two. And then everything still works the same. This is an instance, right, of this class. So you can say image dot to call the methods inside UJ image. Same applies here. You say underscore image dot to call methods part of the C++ class. Part of the UJ image class, right? So this is the slight variations between the two. Even the switch statement. Remember, we also have the switch statement. It's exactly the same as in C++. In Java, it's also the same. So if you master those things, you're gonna have here, and then you do this, and then same as in C++. You have case, and then whatever that case is, and then you're gonna have a break at the end. If you want to put curly braces, you can also put curly braces. You can do this, and then you have a break at the end. It's similar to C++. It's exactly the same. So yeah, just know those are the slight variations between the two. I hope you understand it now.
Yes, yes.
So I'm gonna rename this to nodes in Java so that I know those are for nodes. And then data types, right? So the file is datatype.java. So that means my class is gonna be called data type. So let me put on battery saver and do this. Come on, why is this thing not disappearing? Okay, it has disappeared. So I'm gonna say public class, right? Okay, let me see. Should I? Okay, let me do this. Let's create two files, right? Let's create two files. Okay, inside tutorial 1, data types, I'm gonna create a C++ file, right? So I'm gonna call it main.cpp. Remember, C++ is a functional language, meaning that everything is based on functions. So you can just give it any name. I'm just gonna call it main.cpp. Simple. So as you can see, it denoted that it's a C++. So let's create a C++ program, right? A simple one, right? So I'm gonna say hash include IO stream. I don't know why why isn't it highlighted though? Doesn't look attractive.
The last, you did say C++.
Yeah, I did say that means this editor that I'm using doesn't highlight. Yeah, so return 0. This means everything went well. If you remember, this just means everything went well. And then let's say what program can I create? It gets your name and then it outputs your name, right? So I would have to import the string. Remember? Because the string, you see, it's similar because remember a string in C++, it's also a class. Because as you can see, I am including it. It's not a primitive type, it's not a fundamental type. There's functions associated with strings, right? Even in C++. That's why I have to include it first. That's why I have to import it in Java terms would say you're importing it. So I'd have to say string str name. And then I would say, okay, you should normalize initializing your variables, else your application is gonna complain. And then I'm just gonna output and say enter your name like this. And then after the user press enters, I need to capture the information and then store it inside a variable called str name. So it's gonna read the string. And then I'm gonna output and greet the user. Hello. And then followed by their name, str name, followed by a line feed or end of line character. And then I'm gonna write this same program in Java. So you see how it is, right? I include the string class or the string header file, and I create the string, and then I initialize it to, oh, it's gonna, yeah. Now I'm becoming a bit rusty on C++. You need to say using namespace standard, because it's in the standard namespace, so else nothing will run. So we need to, I forgot to do that. So string, this is the variable name. As you can see, it's terminated by a semicolon, exactly like in Java. The only difference is the way we're outputting. So let's go to Java and write the same program. So, and remember in Java, everything needs to be in a class. And then I'm going to have public static void main string args for command line arguments. There we go. And then I'm going to need to create a string variable. So string str name, remember camel case, is equals to, just initialize it to an empty string, right? And then I'm going to output, I'm going to say system.out print, right? And say enter your name. Pay attention, I said print, not print line. So that means the cursor, this thing, you see this thing here that keeps on flickering like this. That's what we call the cursor. It's going to remain there. But if I said print line, the cursor would move, would start on a new line. I don't want that. I want it in the same line. So I'm going to use the print function. And then semicolon. And then we get the input, right? So get the input. Yeah, to get the input, we have to import the scanner class. So import Java, Java, right, .util .scanner. So we have what? I forgot the names, but there's different ways we can import, right? Remember, this is specific. I'm importing only the scanner class. There's the wildcard character, basically the one that a character that's used to import everything within this package, right? You can, instead of saying scanner, you put an asterisk. It means import everything. So if I need functions like a power function to find the exponent, to say a to the power of b, I will need the math class, right? So I can import, all of that is imported automatically. And there's no difference between the two. You might say, yeah, I'm saying scanner, only importing what thing that you're using is more useful than importing everything. Well, in Java, it's not necessarily, doesn't matter. Java only, it only executes this line in Java if you've used the scanner class. You see here, I haven't used it, right? If I run this program, this line, it won't run because I haven't used the scanner class. So it won't waste resources, right? So you're gonna say scanner and then scan, and then you say it's equals to new scanner to create an instance of a scanner class, scanner, and then remember the constructor or the arguments that you need to pass in is the standard output device. How do you access the standard output device? You say system.in. There we go. And then at the end of the day, right, you need to close the scan. You don't have to, but in other, I think in other IDEs or whatever, it might complain and say you haven't, it might result in a resource leakage, right? Remember, you've allocated here. In a way, you must call the close function to close to, like, you don't have to remember, I said you don't have to worry about pointers, right? You won't deallocate, you won't use the delete keyword. There's no delete keyword in Java. You're just gonna call a function that does that behind, it does it for you behind the scenes. So you're gonna say scan dot close to close the scan. Always close it. You don't have to, because at the end of the day, after you've done executing everything gets closed, right? Automatically. This is just for people who have that issue. You know when you close, when you've locked the door, right? Immediately after locking the door and you're about to go enter your bed, there's a question that goes in your mind: did I really lock the door? And then you go back and you go and check, but you know for sure you did lock the door. So this is for people who are like that. You know it will automatically close, but just to make sure that you've closed, you'll close it yourself. But at the end of the day, it will close. Just know that this is for all those people who have that thing. So you can always close it so that you're at peace. Because I know you won't be at peace. You'll be like, Mara, did I really close it? Did I close the door? Did I lock it? No, I have to double check. Then you go back, you find out, oh, it is locked. Then now you can feel a sense of relief. But you immediately locked it. You didn't. It's not like you locked it and then sat in your bed for like an hour and then you asked yourself that question. Immediately after locking it, the moment you enter your bed, you're like, did I lock? So it's for people who have that thing. I don't know what it's called, but yeah, you can always close it. It's up to you. So scan, and then now I want to read the string, right? There's the string. So I'm gonna say str name is equals to scan dot next. Remember, if you just say next, it's gonna read the string. And then I need to output system.out.println. And then I'm gonna say hello, hello, comma, and then remember the plus. There's this thing called string concatenation. We'll discuss it more in what is this? When we talk about the string data type or the string class. So basically, it's concatenation. It means combining different set of strings, a different set of strings. Yeah. So combine the hello string and the string that I'm getting from the user, and then output that combined version or that concatenated version. So let's run our application, right? So I need to, oh, I forgot about something very important. We'll talk about that, batch files. So we have this. So in order, you see why I'm doing this, right? I'm avoiding to do this, right? Enter CMDs, press dir, then I see, oh, I have to move into the downloads folder. Then I say cd downloads, and then I say dir to see if I'm really in the downloads folder. And then I move into the tutorial 1 folder, and then dir to see if I'm really in the folder. You see, it's gonna waste time. So the quickest way is to go into your file explorer, open the folder, and go to the folder with all the files, right? These are the files. And then you go to the top here, you delete everything that's there, and then you type CMD, and then press enter. By default, your CMD would open inside that folder that you're in. You see, I don't have to type all those commands. So now I can just say dir to make sure I'm in that folder. As you can see, there's the data type to Java, there's the main.cpp. And then CLS to clear my screen. And then let's compile the program. So let's translate it to machine language. So data, and remember what I said, to autocomplete, you just press tab. So tab, you see auto-completed, and I press enter. Let's see if there's no errors found. Perfect. And then you say Java to pass the .class, to pass the translated version through Java Virtual Machine, so that the Java Virtual Machine actually executes what you want it to execute. Because now it's in the language of the computer, the machine language. So I'm gonna just call it, it's just called data without the class, right? You don't have to put the class, just say the name in front of, before the dot class, and then press enter, as you can see. So you see, it's waiting for my input, right? Because I called system.in, and system.in it refers to the standard input device, which is the keyboard. And the keyboard is referenced through the CMD, the terminal. So it knows, oh, this person should enter a value. What's your name? I'm gonna type Chuck Norris and then press enter. Hello, Chuck. You see, it becomes a problem now. Now you might ask, now I'm sure asking yourself, but why isn't it reading the full name? It makes sense. If the real thing about it makes sense, because remember what I said. Next, it reads the next string, not strings. The next string. And a string, remember, the string is basically a string of characters. So it says, oh, there's C, there's H, there's U, there's C, there's K. Oh, there's a space. That means there's the string is finished almost. Then I'm just gonna read Chuck. So if you wanna read everything, you'd have, if you remember the notes, next line to read the whole line. Or you can say next, and maybe you create two separate variables, a variable for the name and a variable for the surname. Each is separated by space. So when you enter, you're gonna separate by space so that it reads them separately. You can do that, but I'm just gonna read the full name. So str, it should be actually str full name, right? Because it's the full name. If I just say str name, technically I'm just saying the name, not the same name. So I should just say str full name. And then remember we have to compile again. So Java, okay, I don't have to type it again. I just press the up arrow on my keyboard. It goes to the previously typed commands. And then I find the one that I want to execute, which is the Java C to compile. And then I compile, and then I press the up arrow again. I'll press the down because the Java command, I typed it after the Java C. So I'm gonna press up instead of going up. And then I press enter my name, Chuck Norris. There we go. Now it's reading the full name because I said next line. I read the whole line, not just one string. So that's the program. It works exactly the same way the C++ program would work. I'm not sure if I have installed G++. Exactly, it's not installed. So I can't compile the .cpp1. And I don't want to waste time opening code blocks. But just know that C++ code works. This code works. And it does the exact same thing that I was doing there. And this one, I think it's going to work exactly the same. It's only going to extract the name. So that's when you'd have to call cin.getLine to get that whole line, right? It's similar, which is similar to what? Scan dot next line. You see, there's a bit of similarity there. So just take note of that. So that's the equivalent to Java, right? So I don't need the main.cpp. I was just showing you how you can convert just a simple program from Java to C, from C++ to Java. So I'm sure you've noticed something. Isn't it annoying having to type these commands? Every time I have to type Java seed, every time. And then I have to type Java every time I want to run it. That's where we need to introduce the concept called batch files. So with batch files, it's basically you writing a set of commands that you're gonna repeat. So you are reducing this thing of having to repeat yourself. So we usually call it any name, but usually the syntax that you guys use is build, and it ends in a .bat. .bat, it automatically translated to a batch file. So it means that it's a file full of commands or command prompt commands that you usually, let me just say commands that you type inside the command prompt. The moment I press enter, look at the icon here. You see, it's still a text file, right? But I said .batch. The moment I press enter, it's gonna convert it to a batch file, and the icon is gonna change. You see, now it knows. If I double click this, okay, you can't run it. I have to run it via the terminal. But this is the batch file. Then all I have to do is open the batch file like this, and then I'm gonna have the batch file. So let's type the commands that we're gonna type. Usually the ones we're typing is what? Java C. And what's the name of that file that I want to execute is data type like this .java, right? And then after running this, I know it's gonna create a .class file with the name in front, this one. So it's gonna have that name. So I just need to say this name there. And then I'm done. I press Control S to save it. And then I go back to that folder. I delete everything. I type CMD. And then now I don't have to run those commands. I just run the batch file. How do I do that? I just type the name of the batch file. Remember, you can use autocomplete by pressing tab. So you write the first 2 or 3 characters or letters of that file name. the name for that file, the first 2 or 3 letters of that file name, and then you press tab. So you press tab, autocomplete. Then I press enter. You see, it ran all the commands. You see, there's the command for Java C. There's the command because it's running what I've typed within the batch file. I created a batch file because I was seeing the redundancy in me having to retype the commands, right? So let's see, enter your name. Same thing. It's what, Dwayne Johnson, whatever. I forgot. I think it's Dwayne Johnson. Yeah. It works the exact same way. And if I rerun the batch file again, it runs the same set of commands. You see, I'm avoiding being redundant. So let me just say Jack. You see, but then you see, you can modify your batch file. Can you see the problem with my batch file? Like with the way I'm running things? Can you see how untidy my screen is right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what
So
I can
you
do
may
is,
need CLS.
so before I run, every time before I run the command, I can put it, remember it's executed sequentially. So before I run these commands, at the very top, I type CLS. It means clear the screen. And the batch file, especially these commands like CLS, dir, choose the structure that you want to follow. If it's CLS, type it CLS in all small letters or in all uppercase letters. Me, I prefer uppercase. It's up to you. Whatever way you want to type it, it's up to you. Let's rerun the batch file. Look at now what's gonna happen. It's gonna clear the screen first. Right? Look at how the screen is so untied, right? Let me run it again. Clear the screen. And then I can enter my name. Let's say I'm Hulk. That's my name. And then I rerun the same batch file. Look, it's gonna clear the screen. You see, cleared. You see, so your batch file also, you need to understand what's going on in the batch file. You can't just run your batch file. So let me let me show you also different types of commands that you can run on the command line, right? So let's say I wanted to create a file. Okay, let's talk about echo, the echo command. Echo means just, an echo, right? If you're in a tunnel and you scream, your voice it's gonna be like someone else is screaming whatever you're screaming, but it keeps on the tone, it keeps on decreasing, it keeps on lowering down. So if I say hello, you say hello, 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 hello. So that's the echo. It's like that. So I can say echo. I can use echo. Echo, you see echo, right? You can view it as like a print. It's like a print function in a way. It echoes back what you are saying. Just like in a tunnel. You can't say hello and you get a high echo. You can say hello and it says hi, 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 hi. It can't do that. It can't do that. It echoes back whatever you've said. So if I want to echo hello world like this is how I do it. I say echo, and it's gonna echo back hello world. And there's a thing called redirection. I think it's called redirection. I forgot what it's called, but you use the greater sun symbol, right? So let's say I wanted to echo this, but I want to save. You see, it's gonna print this, right? But I want that to be saved in a file. So save it or redirect that into a file, and I'm gonna create a file named something. I hope this is the same as in, I think this is a Linux command. I hope it's the same. I hope I won't face any issues. .txt. And then dir, there's the something. It is generated. Remember, it was not there, this text file. Remember, it was not there. So if I check the text file, my folder, there's the text file. Let's open the folder. There's that string. That's the power of knowing command prompt. You can do things. Remember that I said about command prompt. It's a textual interface. So you can do things that you usually do on your laptop, but you do them via text. You type something and it does that thing. Even to read a file, you could echo, you could type it via CMD, all those things. Just that I forgot. I'm used to the Linux distribution. With Linux, you say what? You say use CAT. That's how you read whatever's in the file. In Windows, I forgot. I don't know. I forgot in Windows. But we don't have to worry about those commands about reading and whatever. But you know what echo does, right? Now you know what echo does. So with echo, I can also do this at the very top. Before I do anything, I must set anyone who tries to echo, set it off. So at echo, do I have, okay, I just have to write like this, at echo off. So that means you can't echo, right? That means you cannot echo. So I can just switch off echoing so you cannot echo. You don't have to put it, but usually stuff. Then you have CLS. Let me also introduce what we call let's say let me introduce what are they called? Variables, right? It's similar to variables that you were doing that you use in that you create inside a programming language. It's just a placeholder for something, right? So let's say, okay, before we do that, let me show you another command. To make a directory, right? To make a folder, you use the mkdir command. MK stands for make. Remember, dir stands for directory or folder. So therefore, make dir means make folder. So space, what's the name of that folder? Hello, that's the name of the folder. And then I press enter, and then I say dir means, remember, it means to list everything within this current directory or this current folder, which is the data types folder. So dir, press enter. And then you're going to see the hello folder. You see dir, it's a directory. So if I check here, there's the folder. I've made it. You see, you're doing the very same thing that you could be doing with the File Explorer, but you're typing it instead. You're using text. You're writing commands. So that's why it's called a textual interface. The command prompt is textual interface. Textual. This is a textual interface. You can control and do anything on your computer via text. You see, this is text. mkdir hello, that's text, right? I told it to create a folder. Whereas I could have just entered File Explorer and then I right-clicked and then I say new and then I say folder and then I make folder and then I give it a name. But here I just typed mkdir and then space followed by the folder name. That's how powerful it is. So let me see. Let's say, okay, let's say in your practical, right? They said you should create folders, right? And you should use variables to create those folders. So let me delete this. So let's go to downloads and create another folder. So I'm going to create a new folder and say, okay, this is your submission, right? I'm going to call it submission, right? Oh, before I forget, let's talk about dots. You see this dot, right? If there's one dot, it means the current directory. Two dots, it means the folder above. So which folder is above data types? It's this one. Which folder is above tutorial 1? It's the download folder. Which is this THETR? If you check, if you go inside File Explorer, you see what I'm talking about. So if I enter here, you see there's a data types folder. Which folder is before the tutorial the data types folder? It's the tutorial 1 folder. And then which folder is before tutorial 1 is the downloads folder. Then I go inside the downloads folder. Oh, this is the tutorial 1. So that's what it means. As you can see, there's the dot here. This dot means my current directory, the current folder I'm in. These two dots, it means the folder above or before this folder. So how this means if I can do this, I can say change direct, right? And I put two dots. I'm saying go to the folder above. Okay, let me clear the screen first so that you can see it properly. So I can say CD, two dots. I'm saying change directory or change folder. Change to which folder? change to the folder above. Remember what I said 2 dots mean? It's the folder above. So basically I'm gonna move to which folder? Tutorial 1. If I press enter, there we go. You see, I've moved outside of data types. I've moved inside the folder above, which is this one. So, and I think you can do this. I know it's gonna look spiritual, but I think you can do something like this. I've only done it in Linux, so I'm not sure if it works here. Yeah, it also works. So I know this command looks weird, right? But it makes sense. I'm saying change direct, right? And go to the folder above this current folder, which is the downloads folder. So I'm gonna enter the downloads folder. Once I'm inside the downloads folder, I'm going to go to the folder above the downloads folder, which is this THETR folder. That's why you can see I'm now in this THER folder from this one command. So that's another way. You can also expand from this. And I'm putting the backslash here so that it doesn't get confused, because I can't just say CD and then 2 dots and then 2 dots again. It's going to be confused. So you need to, it makes more sense to do this. And okay, so I need to go back to the downloads folder. And then what folder did I create? Submission, right? And then I'm gonna CD inside the submission, press tab to autocomplete, press end. dir, there's currently nothing because I can see the 0 bytes. There's currently nothing in this folder, right? So let's say inside your submission folder, you were supposed to make a batch file, right? So you're supposed to make a batch file, and then the batch file is supposed to be inside the docs folder, right? So what you can do, that means the docs folder by default, it should always be there. So I should create it this way. I could type it via the CMD, is fine. But I'm just going to choose to do it this way. Docs folder. Inside my docs folder, I create a batch file. Okay, so let me see. Let's just delete the folder. Let's do it via CMD, via the command prompt, so that we can show and flex that, we know what we're doing, right? We are goats. So mkdir docs, and then dir, there's the docs folder. I've created a folder called docs, or directory called docs. Now I need to change to the inside that folder, because why? I want to create a file, a batch file. So what I can do, right? The simplest way to create a file in Windows. Remember that echo command. Remember what that echo command does. It does 2 things. It echoes into a file. If the file does not exist, it's going to remember with when you combine echo and redirection. When you redirect that echo, whatever that return value is going to be into a file, it checks if that file exists. If it does exist, then it's going to echo that whatever is in whatever you want it to echo. Or if it does not exist, it's going to create it first, then echo. So we can use that to our advantage. So I can just say echo nothing, because I wanted to just create that file. And then I put the greater sign, meaning that take whatever the result is returned here, and transfer it. That's why it's pointing to that direction. Transfer it into a file named build.bat. And then if I say dir, there's build.bat. And then if I check here, if I go inside, there's the docs folder, it has been created. There's the batch file, it has been created. Obviously, the batch file is going to have an empty space, but it's fine. We can fix that. We can just delete that. We can just edit it now. So I open it inside. Yeah, you see, it's going to have this. It's going to, remember, I said it echo that. So I'm just going to delete that, because I just wanted to create the file via text, via a command. I didn't want to right click and create it. So there's the file. Let's write the command, right? At first, I'm going to say at echo off, switch off echoing, and then clear screen. And to do comments, right, in a batch file, you write the keyword RAM in all uppercase. Okay, you can write it in small. Let me see. Yeah, it doesn't matter how you write it, but I'm just gonna write it in uppercase, and then you write the comment that you wanna write here. So you can just say here, I can just write this and say RAM. This means this clears the screen. This clears the previous commands on the screen. So remember, a comment works the same way. It's just going to ignore this comment that I've made. It's not going to execute it. It's going to execute these ones. Everything else we won't execute. So remember, we've learned about the keyword mkdir, right? Make directory. So how do you set a variable? So what is a variable, right? So a variable is just that I don't. Oh, okay. I have a way to show you variables. But it's gonna be a problem. I can't demonstrate it here. Let me see. Dot dash. Okay, let me. Just what you say. What's that? Let me see. Just give me a minute. I'm trying to remember this command. Okay, let me just say vim. Let me open vim and say dot dash profile. Oh, it is there. Okay. It's control X and control escape. I don't know. It's what? It's escape. Damn, I forgot the commands. But that's how I was trying to show you something, just that I forgot the command. But variables, right? You see what a variable does, right? Let me show you what a variable does. Remember, it's a placeholder. If you remember what placeholders do, it means that just like in math, right? When you're solving for x, if you say x is equals to 10, right? And you say y is equals to x times x, then what is y? How would you find y? You'd find y by substituting the value of that x is the placeholder for. X is a placeholder for the value 10. So I'll substitute that value 10. So I'll say 10 times 10, which evaluates to 100. So it's the same thing, but we can extend this and make it much more and use this and extend from this understanding. So I'm just gonna use the keyword set, right? And you say set set the variable. So you create a variable. Let's say set x to be equals to 10. That's how you'd write it in a batch file, which evaluates to the same it's the same as saying x is equals to 10 in math, right? So yeah, you'd write it like that. But as we want to store commands, right? We want to store folders too. So I can say, let's say in your practical, right? They say you should create what are the folders that you guys create? Okay, the source folder is gonna be already there, but I need to also represent the source folder, create a variable for the source folder, docs folder, data folder. What's the other one? What's the other folder again?
Bin
I beg your
folder.
pardon? Huh?
Bin folder.
Oh, bin. Yeah, bin folder. So yeah,
I'm not sure
bin
if
folder.
there's another one, but for now, there are 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Yeah, these are the most commonly used one. So source folder, right? I would need to create a variable to represent my source folder. So how would I do that? Remember, I now know I need to say set to create a variable. So I'm just going to create a comment here and say create variables to represent my folders. And then let's do that. Let's say set. What am I going to call it? I'm going to call it, let's start with the docs folder. I'm going to call it docs underscore folder is equals to. Please, when you say set, right, when you create a variable in a bash file, don't think of variables in coding or in math where you put a space up before the equal sign, where you do this and you do this. Don't do that. It's gonna think it's everything, even the space is a command. It's gonna interpret it as a command, and then it ends up crashing. So let me show you an example. Let's say my docs folder. I'll I'll fix it right now. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So let's do this. Okay, I'm already in that folder, right? Or remember, I need to transfer. Okay, let me change directory and move to the submission folder because that's where the batch file is, right? Unless if I've moved it. Oh, I've moved it to I've created it inside the docs folder, which is fine. That's how you should create it, right? So it's docs folder, right? And dir, there's the batch file, build. Okay, it didn't complain, but it's not gonna work when we extend from this concept. Okay, remember. Okay, I need you to pay attention to something. Can you see this? Can you see where I'm currently am when I execute the batch file? You see, I'm inside the docs folder, right?
Yeah.
But I need to create the folders within the submission folder. So here, this is where I should have source. I should have what. So this is where. Okay, remember source it needs to be there by default. The only ones that you're creating is bin and okay, yeah, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So the source, this is where you put your Java code, right? So I need to create these folders within submission folder, right? But currently, where am I when the batch file is run? I'm inside what?
Docs.
Yeah.
Docs folder.
We can confirm by writing a dir command here. So let me run the batch file. Remember, dir prints the current directory. I'm supposed to build. Oh yeah, it prints. You see it printed. So when it prints, you see how it's printing. It's printing build.bat. So that means it's printing build.bat. That means I'm in the docs folder. So it's printing everything that's inside the docs folder, which is the build.bat. So I'm currently in the docs folder. So if I make this mistake of writing a command here, maybe at the bottom here, say mkd, make a directory, it's gonna make it inside which folder? Inside the docs folder, which is not where I want it to be. I need to be inside the submission because that's where they go, right? Remember, the submission is how you name your submission, right? I'm just called it submission. You'd usually put in your initials, surname, module code, year, practical number, all those stuff. And then within that folder, you put source, docs, bin, data, etc. Right? So that means everything needs to be within that folder. In our case, it's the submission folder. So how do I fix this? That's the point of that's the whole point of a batch file. You write all the commands. So before I create variables, it's up to you, even after creating variables. So let me just do it after creating variables. So after creating variables, I need to change the directory and move one folder up. So here, move one folder up because I need to make sure I'm in the submission folder before I can create the folders that I need to create, right? So I'm going to type that command there. Okay, so I need to normalize commenting at the top. Commenting on the sideways, it doesn't make any sense. And please make sure you don't have any extra spaces, right? You see, don't do this. Don't put a space like that. Just make sure you don't have it in extra spaces. So I'm going to run this command, then I'm going to make my folders. So let's, oh yeah, it's fine. Yeah, now I see. It makes sense. Now I see. So I'm going to do this. I need to change directory before I make my variables, right? So how do I make my variables? It's like this. Don't put a space before the equal sign and after the equal sign, don't put the space. So I'm going to use the set command, which means I'm creating a variable followed by the name of that variable equals to followed by the value. The value, you're going to put it inside double quotation, double quotes. So how do I create, or what do I do here? I'm saying this is the docs folder, but let me see. The docs folder is that, and then no. So the way, remember the dot, right? Let's go back to this. Remember the dot, what it means. It means the current direct, right? Where the folder that I'm currently in, right? So
Yes.
so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say dot to say that the current folder that I'm in, and then I put the / there and say create a folder called docs. So in the current folder that I am in, create the docs folder, right? So that's what it's going. No, I'm not creating. I'm setting a variable. So whenever I use this variable, it's gonna have this value. So just remember, when you see a dot and a / like this, it means current directory, and followed by the name of the folder that I want to create. So you'll see that later. Okay, let's just do it right. So let me create a comment. Create the directories. And remember, the command for creating a directory is what? mkdir to create the directory. So mkdir followed by the name of directory, right? That's how you use this command, right? If you remember. So how will I get the name? That's where variables come into place. I don't have to remember these things, because if I didn't use a variable, right, I would have to copy and paste and write it like this. You see, it makes my batch file make no sense. It doesn't. You see, it becomes very complicated unnecessarily. Because when you run this, if you ever run a command like this on the CMD, you haven't, right? So that's why we create variables to make it simpler. So how do you extract the value inside a variable for batch files? Or how do you copy and paste the value inside a variable? You use the 2% symbols here, like this. And then within those 2% symbols, you put the name of the variable. So what this does, this thing, it means take this value and paste it there. So it's gonna copy here and then replace this and do this and make a directory in the current folder named docs. But I'm using variables to do that. I hope you understand. Do you understand?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So I'm gonna do the same thing for other folders. Okay, docs, I don't need to make it. No, I don't need to make docs folder because it's already there. I'm just gonna use it. I'm just gonna create a variable for it. The folder that I need to make is what? It's data folder. So I'm gonna call it data folder is equals to the current directory / and then the name that I want to create is gonna be what is it going to be? Data. I called it date, not it's data, not date. So here I need to change this. I need to rename this to data because I want to create the data folder. So there we go. I've created the data folder. This command is going to create the data folder. So let's run our updated batch file. Right, build. Okay, build. And then autocomplete, enter. And then you see, done. Remember, look at where it was. Remember, it was in docs folder. Look at where it is now. It's in the submission folder because of what command? This command. It changed the directory. I never went back to the docs folder. Remember, I never went back. So if I say dir to list everything within this current directory, I should see a data folder. There's the data folder.
Yeah.
That's the power of batch files. You see, if I come here, there's a data folder. Did you see me go to File Explorer and right click? No.
No.
I just wrote everything in the command, in the batch file. And remember the batch file, I'm avoiding to rewrite everything. You could write it here. You could say, let me show you what I mean. You could say set, right? Let me create let me say Java compile, right? And then the value is I compile Java C and I compile a hello.java file. Done. I've set a variable. So every time I call this variable Java compiler like this, what it's going to do? Okay, I don't know why Windows is weird. In what is this? In Linux, you can immediately after doing this, you can run this. Or maybe one day you have to change the bash file, whatever. Okay, it becomes complicated. But yeah, this is what that Java file, this is what variables do. So instead of me rewriting this whole command, what it does is I just call that variable. That's what I'm doing. But I'm doing it via batch file. Right?
Yeah.
So let's delete this data folder. So make sure before you submit, you make sure you delete everything, so that when the assistant sees it, they see your commands, they see, oh, okay, it did do everything, it's creating, it's doing all of that. Yeah. So data folder, and so we have data folder. So let's create a variable for other folders, right? So with data, with bin folder is the current directory, and then bin, and then set, what's the other one? Source folder. Source folder. Remember, we're gonna need the source folder for compiling. So it's src, right? Let me show you how to compile, right? Did I save it? Okay, let me go back. Remember that application that we created in tutorial 1, the data types. I want to copy it, this one. Copy, and then put it inside this new submission folder, inside the source folder, like this, right? So inside of my source folder, so now I have a variable for source folder. And the data folder, remember, we need to create a data folder and a bin folder. So I need to write the mkdir command to make a directory, and then I use the % symbol to copy and paste the value within a variable. So which variable is bin folder? So it's gonna make the bin folder and make the data folder. That's what those two commands do. And then remember they talked about setting the path, right? I'm not gonna talk about it for now. We'll get back to that later. It's a very simple thing. So you can also have what is this? Yeah, you can create also a Java. Let's call it Java home. That shows the path for your JDK, right? I don't think I downloaded the JDK. Oh, I did. So you're gonna come here to the JDK, and you go inside the bin folder, and then you copy that location like this, and then you paste it there like that. So this variable Java home is gonna represent the location for where my JDK is located, and then I'm gonna use that to set the path, right? Well, I'll talk about that later. Right now, my main focus is on the simpler things and straightforward things that you shouldn't even be worrying about. So I've made this, after making these two folders, let's compile the program, right? So let me make let's compile the Java file. So how do you do that? Remember, it's Java C and followed by the name of the Java file. But remember this Java file. This is where you need to think now. Remember this Java file is within the source folder. In the source folder, we have a variable for it. So I'm going to extract the value of source folder variable. And then within that folder, remember what this thing does. It means go within that folder. And then within that folder, I should find a what? A file named data type dot Java. So that's what it means. And then now I need to write a comment and say run or execute the Java, the class file, the file with the, I need to execute the file with the machine language, right? Remember, it's going to translate and create a dot class file. And that, let me see. Remember, what did they say? They say you should transfer it inside the bin folder, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think that's the rest to happen. Yeah.
So remember what I talked about, redirection. That's where redirection comes into place. So you're gonna have to say greater than sign to redirect. Remember what this command will do. It will create a .class file, file, right? So I want it, when it's created, to be redirected or to be created inside what? The bin folder. So I'm gonna do this percent symbol. So it should redirect to the bin fold. That's what this symbol does, greater than. It means redirect whatever is returned on this side. On this side, it's a file that's going to be returned. So it's going to redirect it inside the bin folder. And remember the percent symbol, it means to extract the value, to copy and paste. So literally what I'm doing is I'm just saying here and then. So yeah, so redirect the class folder into the bin folder. But I'm using variables for it. So now when I run, remember now it's inside the bin fold. As people here, they'll make you think it's inside the bin fold. So now I need to go within the bin folder. So I use this. Within that bin folder, I should find a data.
Directory.
I'm just remember you don't have to say dot class. I can just leave it like this. Yeah. And then it should run. I'm saying you should run because sometimes you can think you know, and then you realize you made a mistake. So let's just see. Let's run it. Let me go inside the docs folder, and then dir. So yeah, that's where the batch file is. And then I'm going to say build BUI and then press tab for autocomplete. So let's see if it's going to execute and with no issues. Access denied, could not find or load main class data folder, class not found. Did it? Oh, okay. I think the redirection part it didn't work properly. Did it say redirect the class folder? Put it in there. No, how come it didn't delete? It didn't redirect. Okay, it did create and whatnot. So the only, like I said, the only issue here is, okay, the source it does have. So I need to delete data and bin. So let me rethink. Am I doing it right? Oh, so let me see. Let's read everything. So I move one directory up. So I move back to the submission folder. So I'm within the submission folder. And then I have this, I create variables or placeholders. And then I use the variables to make directories or folders. And then here, I go inside my source folder, and then I run the data to Java or to a thingy, and then I redirect whatever's returned into the bin folder. Let me see. Let's not redirect, right? Let's not redirect. Let's just do this. Let's see if this command, if this right over here is actually running. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that, and then here I'm just going to say Java because it's within the same folder, right? So I'm just going to run that for now. So let's do that and then build. Yeah, something's not right. So it's not running or file not found source.java / data type current. Oh, okay. So let's do this. Let's remove the / Let me just do this. For me, let me not explicitly say that I'm in the current directory. Maybe that's what's confusing it. So let me just do this. And then clear screen. And then BU subdirectory. Okay, I know I already created it. Okay, I don't know why it was taking so long, but file not found. So it's putting 2 / in front of source and then trying to go. Oh, I think what's wrong here? Why is it putting 2 / Oh, I'm saying no, but it's fine because here it's just gonna say / source like this / go into you should find a file named that. So I don't know why it's doing that.
I remember something. I don't know if it doesn't matter or what on the compiling and something about, say, maybe after Java C you say negative source path or negative D, some stuff like that. I'm not sure if it doesn't matter or what.
No, that's applicable for Java P when you have, I forgot what, Java P, whatever. It's only applicable there. But
Okay.
it should be working, like 100% working. There shouldn't be any issue. So let me do this. What happened now? The source folder is no longer there. This thing. I don't know what happened. Or maybe I was deleting the wrong things. Let me put back the source folder. We are busy here trying to find out what's the problem. The source folder does not even exist. That's code for you. Doesn't play around. It will chow you. Nice. So let me put back the source folder because there's no command that I'm writing to delete the source folder. I think I deleted it by mistake. So bin data, let's delete that. Because as far as I'm concerned, this thing should be working perfectly fine. That's why I'm not understanding why. That's why I didn't understand why it wasn't working. So let's see now. Why is it saying file not found? Okay, let me see. Let me check. Okay, there's the docs folder. Yeah, and then you move one folder up. Okay, let me do it like this. Because the way I'm doing it now, it seems like, yeah, it doesn't like it. So let's do this. Let's just say cd into the source folder. Because now I don't know why it's doing that. Because I wrote this thing and it was working the way I approached it this way. It did work perfectly fine. So cd into the source folder, move into the source folder, and then try to compile. After compiling, let me see if this will work. Send that to the bin folder. Yeah, I think it should, let me see, it should move to the bin folder, right? I'm not sure, but let's say docs, and then build. Oh, so you see, it is working, but now the main. Remember, I was supposed to move back one directory up so that I can find the. Oh no, wait, it's gonna store it inside the source folder, because I've moved inside the source folder. You should store it inside the source folder. But why is this thing not? Why is it not storing permanent changes? What's going on? Let's do this. Let me come here. Because it seems like it's not updating for some weird reason. Build. It says it already exists, but I don't see it. Where is it? Where's the subdirectory? Literally don't know why it's doing this, but it was working in the previous implementation that I wrote. In the current folder. Okay, compile, make directory. Okay, let me leave it like this and see what happens. I move one document up and then the current folder, then print, and then. Okay, let's see now. Not the source, the docs folder, CMD. Okay, so now it's not finding the class. Okay, there's the folders now. Hey, this thing is weird. It was complaining about, now it's not complaining. Oh, there's the class folder. Hey. You see, I just put I put it back to the way it was, and now it's working. I give up, man. I code. This thing will chow you, man. That's why sometimes I just try to go back and re-execute the same commands that you tried that failed to execute. So let me close here. I'm just gonna reopen CMD again. So let me see if this would redirect the file into that folder. I just wanna see if that's gonna work, this command. If it works, then I know that now it's going to be stored in the bin folder. Then I'm going to reference the bin folder to find that file. So build that could not be found. So let's see if we created everything. It didn't move it much. Where is it? Source. I think it's okay. So this doesn't move. So it doesn't work the same way. I see. So this doesn't work the same way as it doesn't work the same way as I thought it works in, like, you see the way we're doing echo, we're redirecting, I thought it would also redirect whatever's returned here. Okay, so this one, it won't return anything. Yeah, it won't. So I should just execute this command, right? And then remember, in the source folder, within the source folder, remember now, it's gonna create the class in the source folder, because remember, the Java file is within the source folder. So I'm gonna let it do that, save it in the source folder, then I move it from source to bin folder. So I'm gonna move from source, move class file from source folder to bin folder. What do you say? I know copy. I know the key command copy. I don't know if you can, I don't know about move. I only know in what is this, in Linux. Let me just quickly search the move command. Do you literally type it as move? Move command. Do you type move, MOV, or no? This is for Linux, man. I said in Windows. How do I move file? This is not what I want.
No, is it not the whole, like the whole word or something?
Yeah. I think usually one thing I've noticed about okay, let's see. I think it's the whole world word move. Yeah, I think it's the whole world word move. So let's just do a simple test here. So let me just go. Yeah, let me try to move the something.txt file just into the tutorial folder. So I wanted to move it one directory up, just up, just one folder up. So just the folder above. So remember the folder above, I just pressed 2 dots. It's the folder above, or the folder before the folder that I'm in. So the folder before the folder that I'm in, before data types folder, it's tutorial 01. So I'm gonna try and type. Okay, let me just write it in small letters. Move something.txt, and then move to what folder? To, okay, and I think I don't know if I have to type the folder name. Is it this or, okay, let me just type. Oh, it did move. So let's say, yeah, it was moved. Okay, so it's the full word. So let me change, let me go to one folder up, dir. Yeah, I see now. So In Linux, you abbreviate it, it's MV, but in here it's the keyword move, it's in full. Even copy in Linux is CP, in Windows is copy in full. Okay, so let's move, and remember it's gonna be in the source folder, right? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna move so I need to find the file source folder. Go inside and you'll find a data type dot class. Move it to what? The bin folder. So bin folder. So you see, I've moved the data type dot class to bin folder because remember, I execute, I compile this thing within the source folder. Obviously, it's going to create the dot class file within the source folder. So I want to move that because it's part of the requirements of you need to save it inside the bin folder. So now I know it's in the bin folder. So now when I try to execute, I need to say go to my bin folder. And then within that folder, you should find a data type dot class, file. But I don't have to say dot class in full. Remember, that's how this Java command works. So let's retest and see if we've killed it or not, or if it has killed us. It's the other way around.
Docs.
So docs, and then cmd, and then build tab. It did move. You see, it moved the file, but for some weird reason, as in let's type it in full. I think that's where the problem is. I think that's where the problem is. Let's just type it in full. To locate that .class file, let's just type it in full. I know the requirement is that you don't type it in full, but let's just type it in full because now it keeps on saying can't find it, and it's there. It's been moved. So build and then tab. Still can't find it. This thing is spiritual. I don't know what it wants now. Because if I check, let's check here. We have the folders, right? Let's check the bin folder. There it is. It's right there. Why is it failing to compile it, to like run it? Because there's a source folder, it's there, and then data, we don't have anything in data. Yeah, everything should be fine. So I don't know what's the issue. Yeah, because I moved it perfectly and it did say moved, one file moved. It did say that this file was moved. So there shouldn't be any issue. Yeah, this should be how this is how it should work. But okay, it should be working like this. This should be the code for this thing, except for the Java P what thingy. But yeah, it should be working like this. This should be the batch file. So let's just close it here and then close, and then delete bin and data, delete, and then go inside docs, cmd, build. It should be working though. I don't know why. Class not found. The data type class is there in the bin folder. And why is it adding extra? I don't understand why it's adding in all these extra things. Because I just say go to the bin folder and then, okay, let's do it like this. This thing is annoying. It wants me to like literally change directories now. So remember now I'm in the submission folder, so I need to change directory and move into the bin folder. At this point, that's how it wants me to execute it. Move into the bin folder and then just run the Java command like this. And then once you're done, you move back up to the submission folder. At this point, if it doesn't work, I don't know. Because now I did do what it wants. CMD. Yo. Okay, this thing's annoying. So you have to move. You have to literally move into, because it can't, for some weird reason it can't find it when you say dot. You have to actually move into the folder. Then you just run it without the dot class extension. So Chuck, hello Chuck, it works. Everything's working perfectly fine. So yeah, you have to execute it like this. I know it's annoying, but yeah. Change, move into the bin folder. So here, this is okay, it's a RAM. Move into the bin folder, right? And then run and execute the class file. And then here, move back to the submission folder. So yeah, do you have any questions? Yeah, this is
No.
pretty much everything you had to do. Yeah, I guess the part for executing here, you'd have to actually move into the folder so that when you say Java and you say data type like this, it's already within that folder. So it's going to search for a class.class file with that folder. Because if you just say execute this command by going to the folder and then what, you literally have to move into the folder. Yeah, it's weird, but yeah. So this is everything you have to write for that first practical. Obviously, it's going to become more and more like demanding, like the commands that you're going to have in the batch file, especially when you start having like things like, what is this, JavaFX? You'll understand when you get there, but yeah. So do you have any questions?
No question.
Yeah, so that's pretty much all I have to say for now. I will make videos and like go like sort of like divide the content that I'm talking about, because this thing of mixing everything in one video ends up making the video very long, and I know you guys are gonna be very lazy. You're gonna see the video, be like, hey, 1 hour, 30 minutes, 2 hours. I'm not watching it. That's what you
But
guys are gonna do.
but the way that I would watch it is like maybe watch the first half, no, I mean 1.5 hour, and then maybe some later continue where I left off.